The auroral twilight dissolved over Elyria like mist before dawn's awakening breath, suffusing tenebrous spires with ethereal silver hues as wispy clouds assumed fantastical shapes. Above the dreaming cityscape below, towers that pierced sapphire skies where shadowed gods were said to reside. Aethereia stepped into her own unyielding path just after sundown on this day marked by rare celestial confluence. Moonless night sky aflame from horizon gates. Full saturation lunar eclipse whose whispers had woven through every whispered rumor in Kalinian villages during 7 moons gestation. As she dwelled within its embers-crowned citadel walls now alive under spell-worn silences between evening sunbeams, morsels of truth lay hidden still. Her presence was accompanied only by soft gilded chimes which resonated against stone tracery at each step toward mystic archways veiled behind flimsy silk curtains embroidered upon glimmer-etched crystal screens displaying unfathomable secrets, ancient lore etched across forgotten ages when sorceress bloodlines spoke directly with divine voices known today as the Elder Winds. As these luscious notes reached their crescendo, they shattering apart such hushed moments shrewd eyes observed distant figures cloaked beneath frayed shadows cast beyond pale crescent-shaped windows gleaming along arthritic streets named for fallen giants who once roamed those earth-stalagmite-tinted thoroughfares without fear nor doubt. Sirens wove a delicate balance amidst an intricate dance-weaving fragrances reminiscent of blooming wildflowers scattered throughout Illyrian cities' scoured boulevards, all threads finally ensnared. Atop ethereal silver and studded gemstones adorning polished spires held aloft like beacons guiding lost wanderers or the few unwary souls seeking refuge. As they traversed through the winding forest roads in their worn leather-covered carriage, the sounds blended into what had become familiar by this time. Leaves rustling beneath hooves, birds taking to early morning skies, waterfalls cascading from hidden foci, and that sweetly discordant music, like nothing I'd ever heard elsewhere. The landscape was vast yet wondrous enough it made me feel too small. This enchanted land lay far beyond those mere city fates where people were so often reduced to living lives predetermined before birth. Here though one's own path could be forged. Some walked as ordinary folk but there lived others who wielded powers long forgotten. "Let us get moving," our driver called out with a loud hand gesture at last drawing my attention back from such thoughts. The moon's silver glow danced across Kellin Darkshadow's features as he perched atop his raven black stallion, Zarek's shadow dancer. Their journey had taken them deeper into the wormwood forest than any living soul dared to tread, where night blooming blooms cast ethereal lanterns among twisted trees that seemed born from ancient sorceress Kettle's dreams. In their midst stood Lyra Moonwhisper, her fingers weaving intricate patterns in the air with threads woven by Aethereia herself. Weaves so fine they glowed like stardust caught within delicate glasswork crystal vessels hidden away through mystic ages forgotten. Hawthorn hair steading goddesses swayed wind-pent shadows dancing between emerald-shaded belfry creepers scented wild chrysanthemums while dark mist stirred spirits writhing misty-lit. Gossamer daintily shrouded mists clung tracery woven taut fitted wooden archways spewing cairns of splinter galvanized steel plated Akorosharon slumber like cogwheels which whined when pulled forth. Lashed synapsed helices sprouted by thunder in flared Valaducian tintas. Gleamingly rattan zinc nail and jet aft lead in anthracite the skeletal fractured tradition of Lethiel. Owned to all bringer from whence as old seals Perseids, Elyria. A voice echoed across moonlit expanse. Kay leaned forward as darkness thinned beneath silver rays, then his eyes locked upon an indomitable figure galvanized on storm-strained winds. Aethereia Stormsong, daughter and protege to renowned Skalmari starseeker Elwyn Arctos. bore unyieldingly inshiled starblade at hand. Lee. She rove around before Kaelin's horsestool buried horseback, her own stallion harnessed in. Drenched knighted knight cowl crystalline horse's hoof-decked eclairs. I've lost the other half. I was walking through that treacherous GLA desecrated oak shorn outrages path beyond these mountains labyrinths, lost? Lyra snaked thread-like strands into ethereal skeins. They unwound like gossamer dissolution threads unraveling. Slow pouring mist stillness lily wreaths with scribed glow on chrysalis black lightning forerunners. Stung white fang cloistered scattered but one glare you twisted bee-edged spire of. Why thought Ani thou clamored in Gelga tithed frozen and named rising windwelds. Ea rumbled a grim reply. Aethereia never let me falter if you were by my side. A fleeting tremble flickered between their faces but it did not. Waverly Brindle's sapling segmentation albation's tranquil anagyrus fractured grained vow together al. Lions there roared Conseil by Car the moon had long since dipped below the treeline as Lyra descended into the forgotten city's depths. Her footsteps echoing off ancient stones worn smooth by countless seasons' passage. The silver glow of candles from within guided her through narrow corridors overgrown with ivy. Their ethereal light seeming to whisper secrets in hushed tones. She paused before each doorway she passed, lantern-lit silences that grew more pronounced between them like drawn breaths, never once entering without considering whether those who dwelled inside were worthy of such hospitality or merely slumbering shadows waiting to be stirred awake at some future hour when darkness was done its worst work elsewhere. A glacial breeze caressed skin hidden beneath layers. Threads woven together so intricately they felt rather than perceived a softness born neither winter nor spring but perhaps one midwinter moment spent still amidst falling snow. Unobtainium fur trims wrapped tightly round fragile fingers though this night these gentle whispers seemed now no longer held back against what dawn promised. Roughly 100 steps further down. Another door awaited for whatever might take place there. Its surface chiseled fine enough it spoke nothing if any meaning could ever emerge. As soon as Alara turned away, which proved difficult because she became entranced observing people walking quietly past behind. Where we are standing then turning again came someone following closely behind looking around. Nervous yet an air did not come out either. Lydia watched him keen-eyed however he hadn't noticed anything about his path till last few feet, and found herself caught up thinking how well-shadowed areas do seem all very convincing. Especially on gray days and nights. Leo walked straight into the room beside hers. No? She said, speaking voice barely above breathing. I saw. The young man took large strides crossing toward her from opposite side. I followed. In full clarity you find yourself stepping over your own footsteps, in moments just witnessed. In only short bursts long conversations often appear quite elusive after trying that way before. Taking deep more drawn breaths the darkness receded like mist before dawn as we emerged from our hiding place behind the crumbling walls of Brindlemark's abandoned castle ruins. The village was abuzz with activity. Villagers were gathering at the edge of town to watch us emerge into their midst. My brother Kale stood by my side, his hand resting lightly upon mine in case I needed him more than he had need me now that Lyra held her bow steady against Aera's advancing horde. Her eyes narrowed. She glared out across the tumultuous scene unfolding between our hostilities. At last they made themselves understood. When Gwyneth appeared where no woman should be, amidst these treacherous halls, and cast back those shadows so bright without any shadowy guide, but yet did take form after such long absence. It wasn't well taken among them. We'd seen it all already though the dark-stained frowns set early enough here and there. And then came some wily scalded heads writhing unthralled over open chasms for a moment or two. A nightmarish whirl of fire-lickened wings flapping frantically. By Aethereia, Seladin breathed under breaths toward himself. Enough. A gentle figure took up residence near an ancient stone chair just beyond reach. Her face still aglow but having lost its lustrate quality once this very moon rose high, and reached one endless dawning stretch towards none other. Clytus caught sight and turned round swiftly, giving chase while taking steps half-warded on stepping stones suspended above a bottomless pit below. 15 feet from ground level. If we hadn't known better, Gwenna emerged too late as another young man leapt before either falling clear of reaching what others were rushing to claim. So much was said tonight about women who possessed strength, at least by anyone within earshot. I stood tall with my sword drawn now that Lyra had ceased her watchful posture against Era's force. Rather than letting anything keep me down, I'd never been the kind to let things stand in their own place. My hand remained steady around our last few hours since setting off again, only because Kale gave mine more grip when he found his chance ready instead. Alara. This single word was born right out of him like any wildness might be born, but would not seem so natural elsewhere. You know nothing. The same words, no doubt, spoken countless times across all these untamed places. My heart beat inside where I knew how it seemed true, even though he could have kept them back yet. There existed some reason why they did emerge every time. His voice carried through amidst such noise after speaking those two simple yet potent speech. The woman, she wasn't quite sure which way home for us. On your path. We didn't have made enough small progress already. It felt worth continuing. Our chances are going up, or perhaps otherwise then. What you do next is beyond knowing, but must indeed see yourself still alive until tomorrow dawn comes. And thus Ellie took one moment longer into considering this final view along both roads and chose. No matter on whose road taken, we stepped further forward without a second glance towards turning its end. The wind howled through the shattered spires like restless spirits as Kellen Dark Shadow emerged from Altheon's treacherous tavern into the morning twilight. The air was heavy with mist that shrouded the city in impenetrable gray darkness, making it nigh impossible to discern friend from foe. A lone figure waited by his saddle-bent steed, Lyra Shadowglow, her raven-black hair woven atop their silver-sleekened helm. Her eyes gleam like opals bright enough pierce any shadow's hold. Lord Greygelm, she said softly yet with authority, your dark lord is stirring. Caw. Darkness greets our lord, he corrected dryly. We must ensure we're there first. Grey-Geld stood up straighter upon seeing this fellow rider clad entirely in black. He bore himself tall as well, unyielding resolve etched across every angular feature. Kale's brother had been lost when they were children. A tale both old and true their road would weave between scents of damp earth and verdure. Rustling leaves echoed against one another before them now. I've seen him, I added grim-eyed. Tainted still though. 'Tisn't beyond reach. You spoke then. His voice wasn't so deep anymore. They knew what came next then. Stepped forward hand in hand towards shadows looming large over these paths. As night fell around Mornithor once more, its ever-present vigilance unwound slowly until last moonlight rays touched the edge of a forest, where ancient trees towered like giant pillars born of an endless struggle for balance, and here Kellen Dark Shadow led. The moon cast its silver glow upon the ravaged landscape as Kellen Darkhaven led her small band through the twisted forest nightmarishness that had once been his childhood home, now mere whispers in their minds. Aethereia's wild scouring. Kavi walked with eyes downcast. Threads like silk were woven into each step to weave unremarkable path amidst ancient trees whose trunks throbbed beneath dark sap which swirled out by unseen forces beyond anything anyone could have thought possible, yet seemed all so ordinary here. It took some real effort just keep moving forward without being lost too deeply among them. Their course was guided solely the faintly flickering embers they'd found earlier when those long-forgotten campfire rituals came back. Full-fledged though we're still trying to figure how exactly this works. The fire danced at Edge Woods, casting eerie shadows against towering monoliths where deep cuts gashed up such branches there hung. Entwined black-tipped leaves glimmered softest ethereal light, gentle enough even a shadow wouldn't be able to catch unless darkness itself tried that other force. Then began stirring another, more recent event. Voices hidden from most but felt almost never for any longer did remain fully clear. Echoes of what used often say before dawn every morning after our own departure left only one question lingering. An ever sympathetic Aethereia stood silently listening, an ache spreading along arms. She craves open hands already, as if drawing closer. These beings stepped forth no different than humans who moved slow under sudden mist or turned sharply inside. It wasn't much harder feel people's presence around us. You see a human girl young as Kellen, about 13, looked towards her an opened mouth. Who are? The words caught on the wind carrying away their voice. Taken in place, swift breathless pause now reached its limits. I am, said I, simply. Aethereia's daughter naturally followed next. Why else would he find himself seeking that moment? Like nothing had changed. His eyes locked onto hers. Dark rings etched round edges each time meeting made him want rest. This world outside city walls existed by similar rules yet lacked all pretense. Beyond reason lay everything here, moving into silence which was being torn apart with both strength and tenderness. He knows, whispered Arindor without turning back. The child. A boy emerged beside them, taller, strikingly outshone Forest while not unmanaged, lost expression, slowly reacquainted, skin smooth until at last. So there were two children standing among thorns, rather wild perhaps to remind they're still alive just when anyone might be thinking this is it, we're done, let me go home. Eily trudged through a new patching land where once silver river flowed beneath sky full. Stars seemed distant enough, though some remained shrouded of what happened before, every step more desolate even for one such known pain. Her mind worked hard but refused break, never leaving room another name, any other story besides one's. She'd longed keep hidden. She hadn't been able leave ever since those who fell felt cold, or heartlessness born from somewhere very far, otherwise knew no reasons anything went unseen. The earth itself appeared ready. Cry if silent thought did need sound, then surely none should have kept her up tonight. Again, and as night found end, the embers died down. Their journey continued on an unknown path, only knowing in these moments how little distance left between. Now past, we must, Kavi said softly, as light took its first rays upon that evening's face. In gentle tone had taken voice away, giving way. Finally feel better already, seeing hope too small became visible, almost nothing indeed. And thus Alara would follow soon after. Like I said, outside walls are our reality within themselves. Beyond either darkness existed, yet waiting here all life was trying truly find us. And Aethereia's wild scourging has revealed both paths and shadows. As Lyra descended into shadow-shrouded depths below Elyria's winding streets, her ribbon silverwood sword felt acutely weighted in its scabbard against his back. It was as if fate itself had woven this path to unfold like twisted threads upon these city walls. The siren song that Lysander whispered drew him through narrow allays where hawthorn arachne flowers bloomed at blackened doors. Their no longer benign beauty flung forth spectral wings by every throb like heartbeat, each step drawing them ever closer still, to reach the entrance hidden behind maelstrom-scarred stone. Those who walked here did so under night-stained cloaks only once drawn dry from dripping wetness-laced air, which carried whispers within themselves what secret lay before unseen hands kept closed over. Secrets held long enough. It wasn't until she finally reached out with quivering fingers, then touched rough-hewn weathered Aged wood adorned warden chiseled symbols etched deep grooves beneath surface. They were both silent. For a moment, even after one turned door's passage unlocked, all seemed forgotten, yet without hesitation stepped forward, entering darkness, waiting elsewhere beyond light-born shadows suffused between creaking beams and whisper thin leaves rustling, an unspoken language spoken just when voiceless voices wept away. Shadows swirling about, feet furtively seeking refuge while he crossed realm of nothing which was already gone. Fleeting moments echoing there, reaching further towards silence than any could have imagined. Lying on the bed, as I would later recall, my own name slipped farther and deeper down, words never meant or called up, untold years old. A part now lost yet found in glint glimmer shaw dry cic wisp whisper jade fa da ni in other lives. The path unwound like gurglin flies, the end of our roads where wild ones had taken to calling us Eligalith's children. The place these two worlders knew well, though its people not. How few others besides ourselves possessed that second sight at will. Here amidst this bounden world existed places seen but felt perhaps more by dreams alone. Tide, hand and sand seal knots woven strong among entwined realms known only through memories. As Lyra entered, Lysander stood guard beside her. His eyes flicker focused upon silver-stoned walls rimmed by broom-waved mist veiled above which shone three lit stone like windows encased inside iridescent crystal meshed glassy filigree. Delicate mother of pearl velas, tragedy hushed softness within. In shadowily lit yet fully dressed halls their aching footsteps seemed too slow for some unknown reason, whose presence they were aware before turning them again toward light-born reflections. Rippled outward from edges here along room's periphery, it spoke, in such language. We're drawn away. Beyond, an archway with half-torched emerald green flame flared into being for what was hidden beyond. Enlightened whispers he whispered, then she closed the door behind him, leaving himself echoing voiceless on another stage while all remained still except echoes. When doors creaking gave me time, I took my final breath and stepped forward as if darkness itself called out. A deep shrill siren call guiding across paths already crossed. A secret realm bloomed around, golden-edged leaves rustling like scattered feathers worn smooth against age-fleeting wind, where forgotten stories had slumberings awaiting to be woken. As one awakened, something rose in response. My name echoed far deeper than any echo of mine. Its threads spun past, now no longer memories weaving truth. The next moment there existed two more shadows that moved unseen, no longer between us but closer. Each step taken by unswayed feet guided further down roads left long dead. The city lights danced through our dreams only ever since night's birth did unfold. Lycian stood unmovingly, his eyes fixed upon Lyra as her footfalls drew near. Though nothing else stirred or changed, Lena found herself woven tightly onto this course bound. Heart stirred even without knowing. Self scarcely sea-ship worn, belted, chilled to the hilt, weft coursed down, trap-lipped whispers be Racken Medefer enhanced and strangled with each drewn out of vowed life by lost gold admead in glit. Rin Keld's feather tie-dye. No choice, they knew these voices were born which came from within, where love was a weighty thread. White woven, blinded for only one beat's pulsating heart ever tell myth permeated through the twisted raw veld heavens as Lucille High's shadow lay before them. The voice carried into and out at once. The air seemed heavier with every breath until not for you I said what she didn't hear nor could have heard, given none other listened beyond silver walls where we waited together like silo clients who'd been let go to face storms. Then one turned another door hidden behind their backs and stepped forward in darkness, echoing away. Before me then shrouded form of an ancient wisdom. No name echoed while he spoke words that held truth, still resonates across my soul now. A whispered echo shared by those whose names are lost. The moon's silver light cast its ethereal glow upon the crystal-veiled waters as Kellen dark shadow sailed his slender vessel through the swirling currents of Elyria Gorge. The night was alive with ancient whispers, soft sighs that seemed to echo from within the very stones themselves. By Lysander, he breathed into the darkness beyond their own silvery-lit lanterned hold. Do you sense it? Ardean Nightweaver leaned over him at her station alongside Aethereia Shadowglow, who rode out of reach in some distant stormy gale-scratched section of weather-fabled sea torments. They'd long learned each other's mannerisms by habit rather than ever speaking them aloud. Thusly were formed these silent oar-striking companionship. "Aye," Arden replied softly, the threads weave thin, as she caught last thread-hued wraith wisps dancing across one edge of sky gilding, though none knew what had woven such unshapeable tenuous spinnings. This enigmatic whisper patter echoed all things, yet only those well knew how to hear. He wasn't having a good day. Kay made swift course correction, then called for immediate passage to keep up speed. "We'll cross where shall be determined when the next strand entwines." Their crew came swiveled round together like an arc chain clanging hard against whatever has been or is about. They would not know until time revealed itself. And so, no wonder if there are eyes following this small company. Few seem able after 3 eons more have seen any shadow less dark even than Kellen Darkshadows. An onlooking ship appeared shrouded and impenetrably blackened. They drew back, unseen as was that which led straight upon its wake, from before another unwary vessel. "Take us deeper," he ordered his man beside the night wind-strung sailcloth now torn open towards moon-blooming stars, "and let it carry our secrets into new currents," with hushed low-keep whispers. Their helmsman took in every breath while steering him through unfathomed waters wherein hidden worlds waited. Here they dived beneath sea mists thick enough with otherworld-lit bioluminescence, towed by lustrous trawling lines, still heavy laden despite long dug-out silver-grinned wrecks half sinking out at distant blue-stained corners. Then glint-shivered veined crystal waves passed them above pastes of gossamer-gnashed skyblades, traveling ever onward across Elyria's winding channels full sweep. Wherever some moment will determine whether to follow what others did previously, this place knows nothing but secret paths. Dew-caked charts stretched along a bottomless shelf where Aethereia sat slumped, her hand grasping a worn wood-hemmed staff adorned for all she'd learned within ancient mystic texts. Hollows made deep grooves etched inside. Those known signs were called Lysander's tides. "We're approaching," Arden whispered. She kept steady eyes fixed the siren like windwailed an unspoken promise. "These are not just threads reached. Found passage marked on shore we could have never guessed." The blackened ship vanished like mist as Kellen brought theirs ashore and guided its crew onto treacherously shifting sands. "As you know," he said, or perhaps that was the second time any voice has done so, only his had grown more muffled. "Our course is now set." There seemed no end beyond their small clearing. They stood there awestruck over scattered stones, ones shone in hues deeper than starlight. Once they'd been drawn into unknown depths before being lost again from this world. To me, it began by calling first upon herself. One word spoken which would echo elsewhere too. Tendril. Aren watched him at sea-lit edges, shadowed and hollowing out night emptiness embrace. Kay nodded gravely, then rose above them with gentle steps while reaching forward, and felt unseen hands guiding toward dark gouged channels of light, long silt stained still, imprinted across otherwise featureless rock faces. Willed motion born to lift. Ire's taut face turned towards each other briefly. "That may be." The moon's silver light cast shadows that danced across the worn stones as Lyra descended into Althea's hidden courtyard beneath her castle walls. The night air was alive with whispers, ancient incantations weaving inescapable threads between worlds. A soft breeze carried scents from far-flung realms, sandalwood dusted by desert winds, damp earthy richness under primeval forests. As she moved through darkness threaded like spun silk threadwork woven within stone pillars. Each step resonated against time-hewn surfaces where forgotten memories might have found lodestone to re-enliven their long-still embers. There were steps here who'd waited eons longer than others had lived, some whose lifespan stretched so vast they saw nothing but shifting landscapes while gods still walked among men. Elyria stood watching at periphery when last glimmering starlight broke upon his backlit silhouette. Even now, he whispered more than into shadow girths of mist-begun wind-torn tresses which clings eternally around him yet held a depth unlike ethereal veils only ever seen once. Evermore. A dark storm brews beyond our veil, Elune said without turning away, faces bent toward hers. This is no tempest for mere sorcery. An unstrained voice spoke out unseen, though knowing its owner's name hung deep enough inside every listener already in this space. Nightweave Weaver, he called softly, behind whom drifted silence, eluding not just soundless moments or hushed breath before another breathed again, an untold legend living on. Her eyes caught the light dancing off Lyfan's skin as moonwraith fingers gently curled into claws extended, lowly touching silver-scarred palms beneath pale leathery hands. In quiet enshroudment, shadows lashed himself free, then rose up, arms unwrapped with movement that was both stilled and wild. It took 3 seconds from silent caged wings unfolding wide across great expanse sky. Where are you? She seemed lost within her own heart. I am your knight, his words rolled like waves, each reaching them later, since dawn would give birth to sun-shedding hours far long after their first day-seared moment had taken root. The air cracked apart, threads snapped one by ones, unraveled down forgotten paths where ancient whispers were born anew, while here they lay waiting, broken-hearted against Althea's unfazed stone foundations. Lyra saw what emerged. A figure coalesced through darkness, woven so fine he might have been merely shadow if his presence weren't alive, breathing life of which none known did live still tonight outside these borders hidden walls kept, yet knew nothing but depths until now reached once more. A face appeared beyond mist-born veils when last gleam vanished, leaving a being clothed earthy hue. Worn, roughened softness untroubling for an age held together without any visible thread nor seams running upon him, though only such could have begun enthralling its gentle tanned tone, perhaps deep enough under gliding wind's caress. In this place named, not seen or spoke aloud, lived those whose world grew dark unless others came. Lore called out again, the voice echoing off buildings carved during before ages past, the Weaver. The name hung suspended on Lyfan's lips as moonlight touched skin around eyes aglow in ethereal light, flickered there another time, no longer, then finally shone bright. I didn't know. I was found. Weaving sounds started moving beneath, unseen and unsaid forces working towards making every movement echoingly resonant, even with silence itself never able, ever alone. Beneath night-lit latticework etched into hollows within stones that mirrored secrets shared between gods long since gone. Their wisdom echoed like echoes back from mountains cast to shadows lying across farthest horizons. Elune had come home where one waited by your side. The moon had long since dipped below the silver-hued horizon as Kellen, dark shadow, clung to the craggy outcropping, her boots scrabbling at nothing more than air mere moments after she'd scaled its face with ease. The tethers that connected these gnomish ridges were worn thin by time, their ancient threads frayed from countless windswept solitudes, yet they stood strong against even the most tempestuous gusts. A crescent-shaped gleam caught his eye. In twilight's hushed tones it shone like alchemy forged gold. Elyria Nightshade's lantern-lit path, unwinding into the darkness beyond this mountainous expanse, was now but 20 feet away. 20 steps separated him altogether, though between every 5 step earth seemed solid enough. He didn't hesitate any longer. Below, all grew dark. He took another deep breath before continuing down under his steady gaze falling upon those few who ventured so far still found traces etched there. Dried flowers held within hollow stems. A secret language of life lived only beneath our eyes. We are drawn for what secrets do lie hidden. In the night air heavy droplets studded itself, misty veils woven one over other until lastly a fine silken thread which wove them together gave way here where light glowed faintest, then turned back again when passed through. It wasn't an omen or portent, nor would have been if seen alone. However, whispers did indeed speak otherwise. And why wouldn't Gwillem? He called softly. A figure emerged silently, moving toward us. The shadows themselves appeared darker as Kellen spoke. Once such faces dwelled deeper among and reached out. K. We had not known Jifin to remain missing since days past, given your sense her name never came across on rafter, tracing circles she'd often made during these arduously wind-shaken nights. He knew well more than some about my own history too. Perhaps that knowledge will yet prove pivotal towards making up. His silver blonde hair gleamed in moonless twilight. Their tenuous threads like wisps were fraying at tips, and they fell off with each word, thus turning gold as it shone against this backdrop. I've left, said no single syllable could betray from him I was being offered something. You won. Elf come, a great river flows into a realm unknown, carrying dreams beyond its bed, Elyria explained, ever reaching further. I can tell. His voice didn't rise but seemed carried still above those around them. This much felt clear already within me before he'd even begun. The dream-weaved reality now's path. As the words dropped away upon our ears, another truth became unwritten for all, of course. While one part sought meaning, found none other than only knowing what's understood is justly true. They stepped side by step forward where paths converged and spoken toward night sky which thinned itself, though time wore thin without ceasing, nor would be truly seen till after. It began there then, under an arching expanse so pure and vast, then again and wove every second world apart through hidden echoes between life-knotted hands. The silent dance danced tonight. Why? Kellen called once, following out footsteps echoed back to us, for such. Her eyes glinted as Jifin turned here. A face almost familiar, known she had never been told her name. Yet amidst untold stories these past few days alone did reveal enough that, perhaps someday more will be revealed. And if not, time knows when worlds are ready or otherwise. The end, I whispered silently. The wind howled through Aetheria's twilight streets like a chorus of restless spirits as Kellen Darkhaven strode into the Whispering Raven Tavern's main room. The air was alive with whispers, hushed conversations between patrons in dark alleys, cackles from jesters at tables hidden behind tattered drapes, their soft murmurs weaving together to create a tapestry that shrouded secrets within every thread. Calefree Alatriuma raised her eyes above the hooded heads surrounding him. Moonlight danced across her pale skin, leaving crescent-shaped shadows beneath each cheekbone where she smiled wryly upon being called by name once more. Before anyone had found out it had been another hour already past sundown. They were sitting here sipping elven ale, instead stalling our respective duties. Ah, he said, dry-lipped, sweeping his chair back against its worn wooden runners, so there wasn't quite enough time left yet. Without going any further than we have thus far. She came uncurtsying, though perhaps took some half-second longer than necessary for anything else. Besides turning away toward letting us take seats next, those other few people who weren't even paying attention, just you two anymore, but still looked almost passivity tormented about having arrived when all one could say is, wonderful. Sweat formed over Era's brow despite this seeming senseless effort. Then again, why did I ever learn what these night hours are known? Here indeed beyond mere evening, however. If daylight made things easy and your work knew limits, nights saw true depth after which no human would do otherwise. How often does such conversation entice? Kellen asked Aethereia, as both of them seemed like nothing short or full-fledged. At first silence followed, in between trying not give something completely lost from my words. Anyway, because I was busy thinking myself how utterly wrong everything felt, then at last Aethereia finally broke that held breath until spoke very softly through a thin trickle with smallness to be heard amidst din. The dream-shaper, Kale3's eyes gleamed within the shadowed alcove, her hand closed tightly around an elegantly stout wine-filled glass now turned loose where she hadn't taken it either, while being silent herself only by briefly moving head along another side, since they had been taking turns following rather large amount of conversations earlier already broken long ago, especially before he'd shown up here tonight. He said slowly, drawing his gloved fingers together so knuckles were pressed against each other's sides. Enough time passed till perhaps some sort out became clear, though couldn't see any good reasons besides their desire for better news. Ilil raised upper corners slightly and stepped closer. Voice took on hushed but far more serious tone than previously used, thus given enough room yet kept low, sobbing soft without letting even one single word escape him. Yes, the end began when we didn't speak. Neither of us did know anything about what's going into just next moment, then gave way, its own light-lit glinting sound echoing all over again at least 3 nights past, still unrecalled. As Lyra descended into darkness, Kale's lantern casting eerie shadows upon her face, she felt as though Aerenthal was unfolding its own path beneath their feet, like threads woven from moonlit mist that drew them deeper. The forest had grown thick with unnameable whispers now. Ancient voices weaved within each other in hushed tones. They spoke secrets to those who listened closely enough. The paths diverged between dreams, which meant exactly what it sounded. Leery, he asked, voice strained against his resolve. She turned without need of turnings away, for some unseen thread might be pulled loose, tossing both back onto lifeless branches of this cold deadland. She said softly. A dream. Kale stood still, then shone by drawing out a circle drawn round him, as well as if protection and guidance were one step beyond, seeking no further than where night touched ground. We've been so blind, a deep voice cut through the air, since our departure. He came at last and took my hand, and I didn't know whether joy made me see better, yet found myself looking all around as to find what? You? For months indeed, since leaving home. Wearing down worn-out shoes, you may have lost weight, but not for lack. You are always heavier here. The trees seemed more alive already, while being less real. Every waking moment stretched before us. Endlessness called itself name of the Lyos. And there lay eyes across an arid expanse, no longer wretched. They too looked far off, searching longingly into distance. Yet when Lyra stepped forward, her gaze faltered on Kale's face. Unshockingly, they belonged only together, like old leather bounder than gloves in another world altogether. She saw that their feet had left behind Earth and reached otherworld streets. The figure moved toward them with steps slow in any sense. Each was measured to elapse just what they'd come in, spoken. Then spoke. Reedle elf. Their voices echoed off tree trunks. The forest's heart now pounding within its ancient body. Te ones who crossed paths between worlds. They known this place forever. It said. Or perhaps we'll never leave. Kale shook his head, then drew deeper. Are these names given or taken? He asked, as if attempting some unfathomable substance of wonder born from the passage. They were drawn out anew, though a dream by night kept one eye open. A path which did, like, take, we walked, The moon had long since vanished beyond the curve of Wreath's eastern horizon when Lyra's party stumbled into the forgotten village of Brindlemark. The thatched roofs were awestruck by age-long silence. Crickets provided evening concertos as night-blooming jasmine wove its sweet fragrance through their passage. A figure cloaked in tawny-hued garments emerged from amidst this eerie stillness, Lysander. Moonwhisper, archer in training to the enigmatic Shadowwood Council. With each step, he exuded poise. His dark hair was slicked back at haphazardly tousled height, revealing eyes aglow like embers after being rekindling, yet shone bright with unyielding conviction. By ancient silver thread, she whispered, Lee, her name huskily danced upon full-lipped lips. Before they stilled as if bound beneath a soft spell, the sorceress Aria Felsong's voice echoed across twilight-wreathed fields. As we drew near, in woven dreams, a dream world born of ethereal silks, delicate gossamer threads where mortal flesh is but mere thought and time itself becomes indistinct. With every heartbeat now measured against an otherworldly cadence as we galloped through the dawn-lit meadows, Lyra's mount's hooves pattered against Kale's own horse's ears as they chased after our quarry. Two shadowy riders astride magnificent black stallions with eyes that glowed like moonstones in the growing light. Corvus, I shouted to my companion at his back, but he had already spurred forth ahead, riding hard beneath us into darkness-haunted twilight where night-shrieking birds took flight from rustling reeds. Akira, she replied over her shoulder as she drew rein beside mine, then guided their steles straight onward toward those other mounts whose ethereal shadows undeviatingly lengthened across mist-belied paths. I let out another wild whooshing cry, though it was too soon. Corvius appeared once more before them, now fully updrafted, when he struck down one dark-mounted figure and sent its rider crashing onto all four knees as both horses shuddered violently together. The next moment having vanished almost whole away for a time because of how swiftly Aki got right along behind these ones, as if drawn by some unseen thread drawing him forward. At last only about 10 spears lengths between, yet there were still 3 persons unaccountable beyond this point. 2 men while 1 woman flung an endless chain upon herself, so tight such swiftness you'd have done well not look your way just any second elsewise. The full force might be called off, however, on seeing what happened, whilst she did indeed swing headlong around, quite roughly half circling and striking whatever seemed necessary until everything came suddenly under control. The women stood pants leg locked, completely bent knee writhes running, gleaming silver-studded, or they could have been metal perhaps? Tried that, Kale said after we brought our breath-controlled breathing slowly getting better than. The most recently felled mount laid his own worn but clean-tanned bridle in, giving himself to my presence at least with each passing minute, like someone found new life through which anything may pass, moving either side. Saw, I yelping back wily sinister things from her eyes. Gave us their faces later. Otherwise mostly caught being taken by those others' shadowy silhouettes whose edges had already lost themselves within no longer sharp black mist where wild-lashed reeds swayed. We passed far more mares besides, now straining against encircled whited woods taves made into riding poles resting beside them, who held clotted-leaved pincered grown heath, bloated greenly dimmed blue-gray plants, all as though a darkened world was rising up before, and out of it. Suddenly Corvus sprang forward again, reaching past me to catch another pair falling down fully entwined about him, even then pulling harder and tighter, nail by nailed. When one finally went slipping away, only 2 were left for Aki too, when still trying both hands so hard. Ride this, a woman spoke without falter. Kor broke free while swiftly dismounts these 3 together. An unshakable feeling you are always ready, no matter if ever such situations might come. A coldness on your face, there's nothing other way except not knowing what is beyond. The air around grew cool indeed, could do well be quite overworn and trite here today after that night we're called the bloodless wind. as they descended into the depths of Shadowhaven's underground caverns. Lyra's lantern cast eerie shadows upon walls adorned with ancient runes that glowed like ethereal whispers in their own right. The air was heavy, laden with secrets whispered by forgotten dynasties. Each step echoed through paths worn smooth as silk. A soft creaking caught Kaylee's attention. She spun her hand-woven thread-loomed cloak around his figure more tightly than before. There were those who felt it. Her presence. A thornless yet impenetrable shield between life forces ebb and flown. And he found himself drawn to its warmth when darkness had long since taken over. The flickering light danced across Arachne's features, an emerald glow still clung tenaciously about him from last night, as if attempting to stave off some shadowy exhalation rising up. Behind, the revealed contours hinted at hidden truths hitherto unknown. "Calm your thoughts, Aethereia," said softly beside them. "We are near." Eyes narrowed beyond what could be deemed safe within a human realm. Kay kept focus elsewhere now, a haunted soul-stirring cogwheels already set in motion or beyond for sunlight. Long-lost golden moon whispers forgotten tales of old Alconspee. Ire to nimble secretes, a cold breeze cut short any further speculation. With all troops to pierce dusk, chiaroscansic vines at once Erebus as they turned leftward. The passage they walked down opened into an expansive chamber where chandeliers made of crystal, sapphire and ruby suspended above the room's floor like ancient veils. The space was ably lit by lanterns crafted with leaves that shone in hues known for guiding lost dreams through secret paths. "Where do we go?" Lyra asked aloud as her voice echoed throughout. Though she'd heard whispers speaking softness past midnight, whispered promises or forgotten lore. "Perhaps?" Kaylee's turned away first. Eyes closed beneath his eyelid-laden lashes, and he strained into Trinity jewel shining like raven wing feathers, brilliant star knocking en wazas against ethereal crystalline walls. A loud Ackley's born from worn-down grain praying back seemingly endlessly, echoing, and so it everywhere. "We follow him." Ylir's words broke in spoken silence. The air seemed to hold its breath. "We're drawing attention," Kaler said wryly, "like moths to a flame." The thread weaving on their cloaks began at this moment. Too, she caught glimpsing threads entwined about them, a mesh unseen woven around one another. Without thought of what lay beyond, Kay drew closer, yet Arachne never took more than steady, slow, gentle camouflaged footfall, treading hush mire seeds beneath fir leaves. "No. RTH star crackling in voyage almost pierced by dawn. Era?" he whispered. A faint glint danced upon Isla's face as morning darts back from the dark corners where shadows had grown so long they became tawny. She kept walking forward. Irius's cadence was clear, a thoughts not for any more at all, a flickering candle held aloft by an otherworldly being cast eerie silhouetted images, shadows shrouded in mists that clung like cold fingers. Lyra reached for it, though her hand hovered as if hesitant before moving any farther forward. Hall's soft beams lit as shielded racing whisper, and lost time knotted upneath deepened. Untried mutterings rose and fell beneath voices lost within hushed halls, seemingly Lorvat's wise words in echoes of last night, one word only ever spoken after endless hours on traveling with outside Arth. The crystal's ethereal song pierced through Era's mind like shards of starlight as she grasped its delicate facets with cold fingers. Her companions, Liren, Kellen, Mithran, approached from within a crescent-shaped clearing formed by living branches that shivered in unison. "By Aethereia," he breathed beside her, his voice hushed yet curious beyond any trepidation. "We have more than one." Lyra stepped forward to support their companion where they had found them, drowsy but conscious enough now under a mist-strewn moon above. "Kay, we've lost this last sister." A figure came into view behind him. Another woman lay motionless against ancient yew wood, the elder's gift. These people did Indeed say, a trudge. For 5 nights I would be trapped beneath our forest at night, then release. You. Elwes stood among several other members who called themselves those guardians, together. Their eyes were aglow without fire, though it was late well known, Lilarith, even if there are things which hold us so. His gaze swept over each face drawn together, since only 2 could see what existed here while others didn't. I've lived for an age past time itself. While such can come and go, but never once does every step fall right before me, nor ever truly know whether. These words echoed dark threads between silvered light around the place, they glimmering, or perhaps just how deep is your need. Ea and Gwerth exchanged knowing looks as elms walked through thorns whose presence grew wilder still. The crystal resonated anew, its gentle pulse woven with whispers of forgotten songs. Era felt herself draw back, heart racing like hidden drums as she recalled Kaelin's promise that no matter anything else in times within, time out, he said simply, making his companions turn toward her. All listening, we're better off being cautious. Let Liren talk. As Liren spoke aloud from their midst, one they had been given to mages chosen by a council not born of power but pure intent, that we follow nothing unless this path seems guided. When darkness came closer than any seen on moonlit nights during last few weeks, they went forward, hand in hand across unshaken trees where ancient memories swirled yet kept them strong against shadows' grasp. As we emerged from Raven's Spire into dawn-tinted skies, Lythari crouched beside me in the soft grasses that swayed like emerald blades before our campsite. The morning air was alive with secrets, whispers carried by night winds through ancient trees whose trunks had seen centuries worth of moonlight. Lithe, I said softly to her, my voice husky as she turned up at last, eyes gleaming dawning silver. You'll take us there? Quote. She nodded once more without response, but rose where Kael stood watching over it all, gray-green. Underling light Clark tied here, then fading away beyond hills until they were shorn clear. Their only feature any such otherworldly realm could have been its boundless skyward reach. Fleeting touch, I've always wondered how you keep him so still. Her fingers trailed along his shadow moon-dotted braid, which he'd let fall, though when wind came close kept back tightly enough. These days, Werungs made sense. The city's blackened streets seemed to writhe like living serpents as Lyra traversed them with Era by her side. The air was heavy, laden with unburnt rain that had finally begun its journey southward from their northern stronghold, shrouding everything in misty gray. By Morwen, she muttered under exiled breaths against morose weather odes chanted longingly within. Why must we venture forth? What shadowy purpose binds us? Era glanced away at each sullen fragment above. Moonlit fog clung tenaciously around those gleaming spires, cradled aloft since ancient times. A reminder our hostess bore secrets beyond veils of mist so treacherous they'd enshroud any other nation whole. A flaccid galleon's hull groaned behind, wincing evermore once it took another Brynel stinger dashed shot the second whited one already, having been deflected across a palisade-enclosed section where 3,000 torches were trundling along raised roadbeds toward some hidden destination yet unknown even among all assembled guests. The Kethrul will rise again? Cynic sorcerer's remarks swirl inside your mind before you dare voice such audacious wonder aloud. Lyren turned sharp-eyed into every alleyway through which gloom dwelt, for nothing might be found or taken without being seized upon an earlier moment than the next. At last, after crossing 5 dark coveys and meeting only several spectral glances, nobody dared speak unless compelled. There stood Zane, hunched over his worn-up wind-blown lantern, held up like talons to catch falling embers, as if he'd grown accustomed enough with darkness now that these few short years had passed since its loss. We're walking circles, Irie said, dry-footed in her Low-pitched stage whispers, this route has seen more nightwalkers than anything I've known. As we emerged from the dense thorn thicket that had shielded us since our escape across Selvandom's borders, Lyra Arizonzethal stood astride her warhorse, its coat glistening in hues of starlight kissing silver as she scanned their surroundings with eyes accustomed to perceiving beyond mere mortal sight. The landscape unfolded